everybody, welcome back to another Sunday session. And these videos are just an opportunity to chill out and craft along at the weekend, or just sit back, relax and watch whatever you fancy doing. Now, if you saw last week's Sunday session, you will know that I was playing around with different things using different things on the gel plate, and they were things that I just found around the house. And one of the things that I used was this lace, as you can see. And I was really intrigued by this, and these are some of the prints that we created using that lace, and I was really intrigued by that. And so this week I'm sort of picking up on that theme, and what I've gathered together is a whole bunch of different fabrics and lace. That's sort of quite a broad description. We've got some yarn and some netting as well, but different broad description, fabric and lace. And I've gathered a whole load of different pieces together that I think might be quite interesting on the gel plate. And so that's what I'm going to be playing with today. So let's have a quick look. This is a piece of net, which has a pattern on it. How well you can see that. We've got this is an embroidered piece of fabric, and I'm wondering how that embroidery will go on the gel plate. Again, as I say, we've got some textured pieces, which are sort of netting. This is a piece of fabric for embroidery. It's not really fabric, actually. It's kind of a paper. I'm not quite sure where it came from. So we've got that. We've got a different, the old rickrack braid, some macrame string. This is like a piece of burlap tape. I think at one time it was sticky on the back, but it's not really. There's odd bits of it that are sticky now. But anyway, I thought we could give that a go. Another little bit of lacy, netty stuff. Some jute twine, which I thought might be quite interesting. And then, look, we've got various pieces of lace here. A piece of woven. This is actually sold as drop cloth in one of our local DIY stores, but it's got quite a cool texture to it. So I wondered how that might come out. I've got some of this funny fluffy yarn. Piece of lace with a different pattern. A little burlap sack, and again some other bits of lace, and a part of an old doily. So I'm really just going to play with those on the gel plate today and see what happens. All right, I'm going to have two plates going like I did last week, so hopefully that doesn't confuse you. And yeah, I'm going to start off. This is an antique white. So it's sort of a creamy colour. Oh. I'll spread that around. Those craft paints are quite runny, I must remember that. Now, I thought I'd sorted my brayers out this week, but already I am seeing that there is something on there. So this first one might just be a bit of a test pull, and we'll sort that brayer out. Let's see if we can get off whatever's on there. Still something there, isn't there? Right, that's okay, we'll leave that for now. I'm going to start off by just trying this this fabric and see what kind of pattern we get. And I'm not going to press too hard. I'm just going to gently press that down all over. And you know what, like last week, this is really experimental. I'm just trying and seeing what happens when we use different things on the gel plate. So I figured out last week, oh, that's quite cool, isn't it? figured out last week that I'm not very good at talking and doing at the same time, but we'll see how we go today. All right, so again, I'm going to swap that over. That's going to dry. It's not such a warm day today, I have to say, so they will take a little bit longer to dry. Now, before I do that next one, I'm just going to flick the camera off and I'm going to have a good look at my brayer and see what's happening with it. Let's see how we go. I've got a lovely purple here. Ooh. I'm actually going to mix that with a bit of a lighter one as well. See what our brayer is doing now. So I hope you've all had a good week. We're kind of heading into autumn here in New Zealand, and it's been actually quite a nice week. We've had almost like a late summer. There's still something on that, but today the weather has turned, and apparently they're predicting a big storm heading our way now. So we've been that busy this week I haven't really watched the news, so yeah, we will see what happens. Right, that's still not great, is it? But these are the first kind of prints I've done today, and sometimes the plate takes a little while to warm up. Now that's beading up in quite an interesting way. I'm almost tempted to leave that and see what happens. Now I know that's not using fabric, but I'm just looking at that and thinking that could be quite an interesting print. Now my gel plates do sometimes do this, I've found, when I've sort of the first pull, you know, it's almost like they need to warm up. So I'm actually just going to leave that and see what happens. I think that could be quite an interesting layer. Gosh, I'm not sure how many I'm going to get done today. I have had to use my heat tool to dry those off. As I say, it's quite a wet, chilly day here today, but we'll see how we go. I'm using, this says it's a burnt umber. It's quite a dark brown, and I've got a bit of orange as well. Oh dear, that's probably a little bit much. Let's just lift a little bit of that off. Ooh. Right, I'm aiming for sort of a vintagey colour here. I think that orange might have come through a bit too strong, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So, what's everybody been watching this week? Yeah, we're still quite pushed for time, I have to say, with our business. We're still in our busy tourism season, but I've managed to watch a couple of videos. What have I watched this week? Oh, I watched a couple of videos by Kerry the Crafter, actually. He was making some kind of 6x4 size pieces. Basically out of book pages, and it was really quite interesting. He was layering up book pages in a little bit of a different way than I've seen before, and then using ink and paint and ephemera, so they were really cool. Lots of inspiration there. And then I started watching another of his videos around how he uses, again, book pages, and he stamps particularly butterflies on them. and does various things to them and then cuts them out and uses them, and they're gorgeous. I have done some of that before when I've seen him do it. So I quite often watch Kerry. Do you know, I don't know that I've watched much else this week. I've watched little snippets here and there. What colour shall I do? Do you know what? I'm going to go really bright. I'm going to put some of these yellows on here. Oh, this one I think is really just about at the end. No, there is no more in there. I'm going to have to cut that open to get any more out. Alright, what can we use instead? This is a similar, it's not quite as dark, but we'll try a little bit of that. It's definitely darker than that very light yellow there. Yeah, so I haven't really been, haven't had opportunity to watch a lot this week, really. I've had a quick flick at a quick glance at a couple of videos with people who are using the Mass Make March 2026 hashtag. I noticed, what did I notice? Oh, Seven Plaza. Oh, I can't remember the lady's name from Seven Plaza. Anyway, I didn't get a chance to watch all of it, but she was making some very cool specimen cards this week, I think. But yeah, other than that, I've got to be honest and say I really haven't had a lot of time this week. Well, let's pull this and see. Okay, I think this is going to be quite cool, quite grungy. It's going to make a good background. Wow, look at that. There you go, so nice piece of texture really there. And I think what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use this to pull another print with a different pattern. So there's a couple of little bits of orange left on here, and actually I'm not going to worry about those because I'm just going to pop that up there to dry off properly. And whilst that's drying, I'll show you what I'm going to do on here. So let's pick another colour that's going to go with that. And actually when I look at that, it looks as though there was probably some leftover black or something else on that plate. That's often the case when it's a first pull. Oh, right, excuse me. I'm going to stick with this nice, I love this yellow. Let's see how that goes. These are actually paints by a company called Montmartre, and they're at the cheaper end of the scale, but I've actually had really good results with them. They're nice and thick for gel printing and things like that. There we go, you can see that's spreading nicely there. Excuse me again. Right, I'm back. As you probably heard, the phone went and I had to go and answer it. What I ended up doing was just pulling that yellow. I actually had to put another layer on top and pull it because when I got back from taking the phone call, the yellow had dried. So we'll start that again. That yellow I will use as a background pull sheet. So let's try that again. I'll put a bit of yellow grey down to answer the phone, and of course it's stuck to my clean-up sheet. Right, I don't want a terribly thick layer on here. So I think that's going to be sufficient. And I'm going to go back to that piece of lace that I used before. And I'm going to pop that on here. Now, this is a bit of a clean-up sheet I was using the other day, and I'm just going to pop this over the top. Pressing down quite firmly all over, because the aim is to lift some of that paint up with the lace. There we go, so that we get that pattern. Now this time, instead of leaving that to dry, I'm going to take that first print that we pulled, and I'm going to put my fingers on the top there, try and get this round about in the same place, and use that as my pull layer. So what we should then have, and you can't see it very well through there, can you? We'll see what it looks like in a minute. All right, let's swap over again. I'm going to hang that piece of lace up to dry off. Let's swap our plates over. I can't even remember what was on this one now. Goodness. Oh yeah, that was the first purple one. That was kind of my warm-up layer, my warm-up pull. As I say, my plates for some reason do this kind of beading effect with the first pull of the day. Do you know what? I actually really quite like that. And you can achieve this effect by spraying water on with acrylic paints. I'll try and remember to link a video in the description box below where I showed you how to do that. But look, I rather like that. All right, let's put that to one side. I'm going to go back to those same two purple paints. They're craft paints, so you do need to give them a bit of a good shake. But I quite like the effect that these give on the gel plate. It's feeling like it's clogging up. Oh, it is. Look at that. Yuck. Oh, we've got quite a bit of yellow in there. Never mind. That's all just going to add to the... Do you know that plate's beading up again? I'm not sure why. Maybe it's something to do with those paints. Let's try a small roller, see what happens. Okay folks, I've got no idea why that's happening. We'll see. Alright, we're going to go with it anyway. I actually want to try this. I'm dying to try this one. This has got quite a lot of raised embroidery and I want to see what happens. I'm just going to press that down. And let's see what we pull up. Pulled up a little bit more than I was hoping. We'll see. Okay. let's try this one on the other side. Oh, that's quite cool. And I'm going to put the strip of burlap along here. Okay. I'm going to let that dry and then we'll put another paint layer over the top and we'll see what happens. Actually, it's still quite wet. I'm going to use this, the yellow background, and pull it with that. Oh, let's use what we've got. Let's have a look, see how this one came out. Oh, so that was the one that we used this lace on, but because of that, because of the background pattern, that hasn't actually come out very distinctly, has it? I mean, you know, as a kind of a grungy background, it's quite nice in that we are building up some layers on it. And I have a bit of an idea for what I want to do with this next, actually. And we'll do that now. And this is the thing with, now is that going to cover? Yeah, that's going to cover most of it. This is the thing when you're experimenting with the gel plate. If it doesn't come out how you anticipated, just keep adding more layers. All right, I've gone back to my, is that burnt umber? Because I've had a bit of an idea of what to do with that, because I'm quite liking that as a bit of a grungy background, actually. I clearly didn't put enough paint on there. Let's go back to our big roller. See, trying to figure out if it's my plate or my roller, and it wasn't this plate, it was the other one that was beading up. This big roller's not. I'm going to bring in my little one and see what happens. That's giving me a much better, more even coat. I may stick to my little one. Right, let's roll that off. Now I'm going to put this over the top, and this is a piece of kind of netting, really. I don't know where it came from, I've got to be honest. It may have been a big produce bag, I don't know. Now that's lifting slightly. What I'm going to do is take that same print again, and this time I'm going to press down through that piece of net. So I'm almost using it as a stencil, and I'm trying to lift some of that paint. What I'm hoping this will achieve is quite a grungy look as a background, that I can use as a background. Let's see. Okay, could do with a bit more here. Doesn't really matter if it doesn't come out in exactly the same place. Because this is one of those sheets like last week. I'll probably cut that up. But there, look at that. That's really usable for me. Okay, pop that to the side. Now I'm going to lift this, and you'll see there's quite a nice textured print on there. So I'm going to allow that to dry, and then we'll pull that on a different colour. And you know, this is the lovely thing about this kind of technique, is that you can just keep building layers. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Add something else on top. I mean, what we could do with this now is perhaps add a gold layer or something like that on top to give it a bit of a lift and a bit of a sparkle. But we'll see. We'll leave it to dry and we'll see what happens. Right, let's see what happened with this one. I'm hesitant about this. But as I say, it's all a bit of an experiment. I wanted to see what fabrics worked with on the gel plate this week and what results we could get. Now, I'm not sure whether this is dry enough to pull. Let's try. Oh, yeah, that's coming up. Okay, you do get a little bit of the outline with that was this one. Might be worth trying again. I'll pop that up to dry. So this was it's kind of some embroidery paper fabric, and that top one was the burlap. Now bearing in mind these are because the paint was beading on my gel plate. I'm going to try a different paint and see what happens, and we'll figure out whether it's the plate or whether it's paint. I'm going to try this blue. Now I've not tried these before. It's a Montmartre, so it's the same make as these big ones that I use quite regularly. These came in a bag that I bought from the op shop the other day, so I've not tried these before. They feel quite nice, quite thick. It says it's a semi-matte satin. Okay, I'm just going to roll my brayer off really well because I don't want brown in there. Ooh, that feels nice. That feels like the same quality as the big tubs that I buy. And that isn't beading, so I'm thinking it may have been that craft paint. Let's go with it and see. Right, I've been dying to try this piece of lace, having had the really good results with the other one. And I'm just grabbing my pull-up sheet again. Yeah, having had some really good results last week with that other one, I've been dying to try this one. Oh, that looks quite cool. All right. Can you see that on camera? Okay, it needs to dry. Let's pop right, these are both dry. I'm going to pull this one with a bronze, just for a bit of fun. And you know, there's quite a lot on there, so I'm actually just going to roll some off onto my little 5x7 plate here. And I've got something in mind for that as well. So there we go. All right. Let's pop a pull sheet on here. Right, if we pop that to the side to dry. And while this paint is still wet, I want to try this doily. Now, obviously there's only half a doily here. That's too wide, isn't it? Hello, Rick Rack. Let's see what that will look like. Again, I'm going to grab a sheet that I was just using last week to do this. Now when we pull these up, we should get, that's not as detailed as I was hoping. Do you know what I'm actually going? Let's have a look. I'm actually going to see if I can put that back on there. Now, I wouldn't normally recommend doing this, but I'm just going to try it, and I'm going to press a little bit harder to see if we can pick a bit more of that paint up. No, that's really resisting it. That's interesting, isn't it? Okay, well, that's all right. We can, as I say, we can still do something with it. We'll leave that to dry. Let's swap over again. This one looks like it's going to be really cool. And I have a pink paint in that same, I was going to say make and model, but that's cars, isn't it? In that same make that came from the same op shop bag. What is that? Now hopefully this is just going to be quite bright and fun and Alright, I've just pulled those last two, so you can have a look at those. This one I could see making a really cool background. What I would like to do with this one is to stencil some big numbers or something like that on top of it. And I think what I might do next Sunday is to start using some of these and adding to these prints so that they become much more usable. So I'm going to put these two to the side to finish drying. I'm going to speed up the video now like I did last week, and I will try a few more experiments for you to watch, and then at the end we'll come back and review everything that we've done today. Okay, everybody, so we've been experimenting today with different fabrics, lace, braid, just to see what kind of texture prints we can get using some of these things on the gel plate. Now, couple of things I've learned from this week and last week. When you're using fabric or net or anything, you know, like this, you'll get different results depending on how hard you press and what paint you're using. So if you try something and it doesn't quite come out as you thought it would, don't give up. Try a different type of paint, or try altering the pressure that you're using when you're when you're picking up the paint, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. But let's have a look through. Now, some of these are fairly uninspiring as they are, but if you tune in next Sunday, what I'm hoping to do in my next Sunday session is to grab all these gel prints that we've made in the last couple of weeks and show you what I do with them next to make them into something more usable. All right, so I'm going to have a quick flick through, and some of these are using the same piece of fabric or texture with different paints, different colours. Actually, that one had a couple of layers on, didn't it? I quite like that actually. I don't know how much of that you can see, but when you look at it, that has quite a lot of interest in terms of the layers on there. I'm looking forward to doing something with that one. Okay, now I want to talk about this one because, do you remember my first pull went like this? And I actually think this is a really cool effect, and I have you can achieve this by spraying water on your plate. And I thought it was that it was the first pull and my plates weren't warmed up, etc, etc. So the last thing I did today was use that same paint and did another pull. Now you can't see this quite so much or quite so clearly because I didn't use such a high contrast to pull it with, but exactly the same thing happened, and that was this paint. Is that the same one? Yeah. Now, I don't know anything about these. I have to say these came in a bag from the op shop, but it was a different plate, and it was definitely, you know, it was at the end of my session rather than the beginning. So I think it's that paint rather than my plates. But really cool, interesting effect that we could utilise to our advantage. But I think what that means is that I ought to try these textures again using a different paint, because I think some of this has not come out well because of that purple paint. So we still might be able to use some of this, we'll see, but that's something I would want to have another go at. And really that's what these sessions are about. They're about, oh, let's make a complete bodge up. It isn't, no, that's not true. It's about, let's try these things, let's see what works, let's you know, find out what doesn't. And when something doesn't come out as you expect, it's about trying something different with it. So this one definitely didn't come out as I was hoping. That was this lace. I don't know what happened, to be honest. But again, we may well be able to use that background. All right. And this is one of the other reasons that I've been using kind of the El Cheapo paper to pull, because these are just experiments. I'm just trying things out. I really quite like this, but I don't know how much I personally would use it. I would need it to be bigger, I think. But definitely works, and certainly there's, you know, I could see that cut and used on things. Now I find this really interesting. This was just the pull sheet from when I used, just dropped a whole load of macrame string and things on there. This one I'm not very impressed with, but this one, the sheet that I used to pull them up, and this is literally a book page. I really rather like that. And that's something that I think I would like to do more of, and perhaps using some of my stencils. I would quite like to try pulling on these bigger book pages and seeing what effect I can get. So again, that's going in the try this more list. Now, this is what I want to say. This one really didn't come out at all. That was the, you know, the old doily. But when I tried it with some different paint, it came out quite well. Now, I don't know how much you can see of that, but that's really quite nice. So again, the other thing to think about is not only what paint you're using, but how thick is it on the gel plate, and experiment with those different thicknesses and different paints and see what happens. And these are good examples. I love this lace, and I'll pull in the ones I did last week as well. Now, what I've found is that it is about how hard, so when you put your lace on the paint and then put a piece of paper over the top and press down to lift some of that paint up, it's about getting that pressure just right. And if I show you this one, you'll see that in some places here we've got that texture, nice texture of the lace, and in other places we haven't. And that's to do, and the same with this one, look, and that's to do with how hard how much pressure you put down on the lace. Now this one, I think unfortunately I didn't pull it with a light enough colour, but again you can see there's some bits that have that quite nice texture and others that don't. So I think it's a case of, if you find something like that you really like, it is about playing with it, and it's about experimenting. So you paint how thick it is and how hard you're pushing down. The other thing I've come to the conclusion is that I like working with fabric that covers the whole plate. So bigger pieces, you know, like this, or like the pieces of lace, rather than smaller bits like this. Now, I think that's just a personal preference, but these I absolutely love. And I have done a few of these because, again, what I've been doing is experimenting with the different, not only different paints, but different pressure on the plate. And obviously that impacts on how much paint you pick up. So, I love this one. I think this is my favourite of the day, I think. You just get such a lovely pattern with that lace. But I love this one as well. And I'm going to turn this in the light so that you can see it, because that's got a lovely metallic blue behind it. The pattern's not so distinct as this one, but when you turn it, you just catch, and it sort of adds a little bit of mystery to it. Imagine that covering a journal. And again, once you've sort of done your experiments, then, you know, by all means, get your really nice paper out and pull on a nice piece of paper, and it will be better. It will. But when I'm playing like this and I'm starting to experiment with different things, I will just use cheap paper. Doesn't get wasted. As I say, join me next week and we'll see what we're going to do with some of these. But yeah, that's my favourite of the day. And I hope that's been fun to watch, folks. I hope you have a lovely Sunday. And please do join me again next week. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Ka kite anō.